Begin by simply listening. Slow down and see just how peaceful today can be. Thank you so much for being here. You can call me Sebastian Smalls. If this goes right, this is going to be packed with danger, suspense, wonderfulness. But first things first, we gotta post to Facebook, right? And make sure the sound's working by playing it at the same time on some other device. So let's do this. Let's make it happen. It's not hard to knock them down. It's getting them to stay down that's the trick. Let's see. Oh. What the heck? So it's a good thing I turned on the sound.
Hello, my darlings. I am the Glitter Fairy Bomber, your friendly neighborhood plainclothes Wiccan Witch, here to remind you that it's time to get comfy, preferably out in nature, under a tree or something, and listen to the latest witch read aloud. Today's episode is a nerdy video game fan fiction written by a friend of mine, entitled Princess Zelda's Birthday Party of Danger. Hyrule Castletown had been excited and busy for the past few weeks, and with good reason. Princess Zelda's birthday celebration was fast approaching, and the king had spared no expense in making preparations. After all, this was no ordinary birthday party. Not only was Zelda a princess, which was obvious, but it was customary in Hyrule for a young girl to be regarded as a woman, beginning on her 16th birthday. On top of that, it was widely rumored that the king of Hyrule had a husband in mind for his daughter, and some even suspected that he would make the announcement at the celebration. Princess Zelda had heard all of these rumors, and it suffices to say she was not at all pleased. When she first heard of the rumors from one of her close friends a week ago, she confronted her father immediately. Now, her father, the king, was considered by many to be a clever man and a shrewd diplomat, but Princess Zelda could read him like an open book. And his lack of a satisfactory answer to these accusations made Zelda angrier than she had been in a long time. She had not spoken with her father since. As the early morning sun shone in through her tower window, and the noise from the castle town, as well as the morning bird songs, were just commencing, Princess Zelda was already up and dressed, but not in her normal extravagant dresses, befitting a princess of Hyrule. She was dressed as common as any girl that might be found. Her striking pale features and long, light blonde hair were hardly complimented flatteringly by the dark brown garment. Her birthday was only a day away, so she was planning an unannounced trip. Impa, Zelda's cousin, who always seemed to have a sixth sense about such things, and this drove Princess Zelda absolutely mad sometimes, knocked on Zelda's door. Impa, I know that it is you. It is always you. Leave me alone. Princess Zelda did not know how to forget it. It was as if Impa knew that Zelda was planning to rebel even before Zelda noticed the thought inside her head. And I'm not planning to stop you, Impa assured her through the locked door. I just want to talk. This boast confused Princess Zelda and made her very happy at the same time. Her mind had been speedily pondering ways to escape from her room without Impa stopping her. Perhaps out the window with bed sheets tied together? But she was not coming up with anything satisfactory. Her window was very high up, so Impa's offer not to stop her was an unexpected yet welcome pleasure to her pointy elf ears. Yet it left her very suspicious. Princess Zelda opened her door and Impa calmly strode in, closing the door behind her. Impa, of the Sheikah people, was dressed in her usual attire, a cloak fancy enough to depict the guardian of royalty, yet modest enough to be inconspicuous and blend in whenever Impa felt so inclined, which was often. While impossible to tell from looking, Zelda knew Impa's robe concealed light armor and more weapons than Zelda would like to guess. While Zelda swore to her by application, her relationship with Zelda had become complex ever since Zelda had stopped seeing her father as being perfect, which was at about 9 years old. While Impa made no secret that she respected the King of Hyrule and was always on his side when it came to what he thought was best for his daughter, somehow Impa managed to balance this authority figure role and remain Zelda's closest girlfriend as well, despite her relatively advanced age. Sometimes Zelda secretly suspected that Impa was able to stay in her good graces by using some sort of Sheikah mind control voodoo. However, this was a suspicion that Zelda was never able to confirm with proof. Impa was squeaky clean, even after much Zelda investigation and spying. Impa looked at Zelda with one of those looks that let her know she was about to say something important. I do not know what you are planning to do, but there is something you need to know. Impa sat Zelda down in the corner of the bed, sat beside her in a chair pulled from a nearby table, looked back into Zelda's eyes, and continued. Zelda, ever since you were a young girl, protecting you has been my whole life. Even though Hyrule has been peaceful these past 16 years, as it ever has been, if not more so, the price of keeping it that way is that we never get lazy or careless. But the way I have been keeping you safe is going to have to change. I will always be here for you, but there comes a time when you need to take responsibility for your own safety. I cannot keep you safe by denying you the ability to make your own choices, take your own risks, and live your own life. It is not fair to you, and it does not work. I cannot help you if you need to push me away to live your life, and it is better if we face whatever may come as a team, even if it means doing it on your terms. Princess Zelda squinted and studied his expression. There is no way Impa is going to use reverse psychology trickery on me, Zelda told herself. Finally, however, Zelda caved. There is no way to stay suspicious of Impa. She is always right. Thanks, Impa. It really is nothing. I'm just going to Hyrule Forest to say Link. As out of the loop as Link can be when it comes to gossip, I worry that you may have heard the rumors that my dad is planning to introduce me to my future husband. I do not know how he would respond to this kind of news. I mean, he has always been a good friend, and marriage can change things. Not that I am planning to go through with any of my father's evil schemes. The rumor in itself is the problem. I could deliver any message if you like, Impa offered. No thank you, Impa, Zelda replied. I think not bothering to visit personally sends the wrong message in and of itself. This is something I want to do, and I want to do it alone. So I would appreciate if you let me go, and if you give me a little privacy, meaning no stealth spying. If anything goes wrong, I will just have to rely on the years of training you have given me, turning me into a killing machine. As I said, you are all grown up now. I cannot stop you. Even your father knew this day would come. I suspect that is why he is so eager to marry you off. The thought of a completely independent Princess Zelda running around Hyrule Field and casting magic spells on Octoroks or unsuspecting travelers terrifies him. Zelda smiled. This was freedom she always told herself she wanted, and yet some part of her missed Impa bossing her around. No matter, she told herself. Every stage of life has its advantages and its disadvantages. The most important thing right now is that I do not have to worry about how Link is feeling. I can go and see for myself. Princess Zelda walked to her trunk and, opening it, removed a small dagger from her belongings. she tucked it hidden away in a slit in her common dress. Leaving Impa in the room, she walked to the stairs, starting to make her way to Hyrule Forest. The early afternoon sun shone through in small patches, through the dense forest overgrowth. Everything was simultaneously bursting with life and yet completely silent. Even the nearby brook seemed to babble peacefully and quietly, its sound muffled by every patch of dirt, by every plant, and blocked by every tree. Link, after bathing to minimize any smell that might tip his quarry off to a hunter approaching, had covered himself in dirt and sap to complete the illusion. If an animal was lucky enough in its final moments to smell him, Link would smell as much like a forest plant or animal as he could muster. Link, no more than 15 years old, but there was no way that he could be sure of that, had seen his fair share of danger in life. Good with a sword, he had never met his match in a fight. Being thin and not incredibly strong, his strength came from his agility and courage. Many he beat at swordplay later commented that Link had no fear. His dirty blonde, long hair stopped just short of his shoulders, and it usually stayed out of his intense green eyes. Link breathed quietly and easily. Being invisible was a matter of preparation, patience, relaxation, and intelligence, and he knew instinctively from years of practice. He silently walked in an upwind direction, his bow strung and arrow ready. Before Link caught sight of any deer, he heard a noise, and he got as low to the ground as possible, still making no noise. His every motion was even more peaceful, relaxed, and silent than the brook, babbling softly more than 50 paces off. His dark green tunic made him instantly indistinguishable from a distance from the nearby ferns growing at the base of a large tree. After a moment had passed, he knew that what he was hearing was not a deer. Link smiled. One of the reasons Link loved hunting was that it was ideal preparation to sneak up on Princess Zelda and startle the life out of her. However, the downside was that his dirt and sap regimen left him feeling somewhat lacking in confidence that he was looking presentable, even by his standards. He removed the cloth from his tunic and wiped his face and neck as best he could. He unstrung his bow and secured it to his back, and then he covered his quiver of arrows. Feeling as prepared to meet the princess as he could possibly make himself, he decided to climb a nearby tree. As the tree was knotted and extremely leaning, he could almost walk up its sloping trunk, until he could look down on Princess Zelda from above. As if in honor of her presence, the forest seemed to Link to lighten up all around her. Colorful butterflies shone in the rays of sunlight beaming from above, and even the nearby dragonflies seemed to take on a jollier attitude at her coming. Perhaps part of it was that Princess Zelda seemed to choose the more open and spacious paths across the forest floor, which were, of course, somewhat brighter, compared to Link skulking through the shadows and dense undergrowth, where he could be most hidden. While Link was fully aware of the happiness that seeing Princess Zelda gave him, he regarded such strong emotions as more of a hindrance than a help to him. Of all the people Link had met in Hyrule or during his travels, only Princess Zelda seemed to ever be more than a stranger to him,
chess?
as if only she could understand why he lived such a solitary life in the forest. He was not like other people in Hyrule, just like Zelda was not either. In a way,
the queen is about to kill the bishop. Battle chess style. You're gonna miss it.
They would go on continuing to be alone forever.
You want to see this?
Because of this, Link knew, staying friends with Princess Zelda was what mattered to him most, even if it meant bowing out gracefully should Zelda ever choose a husband that did not happen to be him.
I tried.
Despite being a bit of a hermit, Link knew enough about people to know that things could happen when feelings of love were expressed hastily and went unrequited. Link was no coward, but neither was he eager to risk everything he had with Princess Zelda to keep her entirely for himself. Zelda paused. Just like Impa seemed to have a sixth sense for knowing what Zelda was going to do before she did it, Zelda was starting to develop a sixth sense about when Link was going to surprise her with one of his sneak attacks. Resisting the urge to call out his name and possibly attract forest bandits or moblins in the process, Zelda instead chose to act as inconspicuous as possible, as if she did not sense Link's presence. If Link was planning a surprise attack, she would just have to let him, she supposed. Part of her felt a surge of pride, I will just have to act surprised if he attacks me, because I know what is coming. Poor Link, he managed to surprise me so many other times, but not this time, she assured herself smugly. She casually glanced in every direction and then peeked above her. No sign of Link. Maybe I was wrong, she started to tell herself. She walked deeper into the forest and began to feel annoyed. Okay, either I was wrong about Link sneaking up on me, or I am right, and he is keeping me waiting long enough for me to get nervous. I hate him so much sometimes.
Go there.
Finally, just as she had given up and convinced herself that she was imagining things, Link dropped as fast as lightning from above and somehow landed softly. Princess Zelda jumped with shock, and Link grinned ear to ear. I got her, he thought to himself. Despite the intense physical training with Impa that Zelda endured frequently, even she was amazed by Link's seemingly reckless falls. Judging by his speed, he must have been falling from at least as high as my towering bedroom window, Zelda observed to herself. As the shock from Zelda's fright should have been wearing off, Princess Zelda was not regaining her breath as quickly as she had expected. Looking at Link, she suddenly realized that part of her was more scared that she'd be getting married than she previously admitted to herself. What if her father and this mysterious suitor were not planning on taking no for an answer? Am I prepared to be disowned and locked in the dungeons on account of my marriage preferences? Or would I compromise and become all the things that I hate when push comes to shove? On top of that, the idea that Zelda might be losing Link made her see him in a different light than she had throughout their childhood. To her, being with Link had always made Zelda more free to be her true self. Out here in the forest, no one ever expected her to keep a straight face, be rigidly dignified, and regal all the time. She could even crack jokes if she felt so inclined. Not that frequently she speak such nonsense, mind you. But as Zelda was beginning to realize, it was more than that. Being with Link was not merely a passport for superficial displays of maturity and loyalty. It was more than just permission to be free from responsibility. Link saw her as the person she wanted to be, a person who not only was more than just a crown-sporting political figurehead. Link expected her to be as outgoing, as adventurous, and as good a person as she always saw herself as being. Sometimes people like her father and even Impa got so wrapped up in the practical necessities and political compromises that they forgot to put the most important things first, like ideals and compassion, no matter what the cost. Princess Zelda and Link were two people who did not know the meaning of compromise, and up until recently, neither of them felt they would ever have to. But after a few moments, Link suspected something was troubling Zelda. As if sensing that he knew, Zelda decided to speak first. Link, how would you feel about me getting married? To someone else, I mean. Link's smile faded, and he looked down, gathering his thoughts. He did not know what to say. As said as he seemed moments ago that he would bow out of Zelda's life if necessary, he somehow could not or would not bring himself to say that to her now. Instead, looking up, his expression unusually indecipherable, he took her hand and led her into the forest. Where are we going, sir? Am I being kidnapped? Zelda half joked, but the solemnity that accompanied the topic that she herself had brought up moments before could not be dispelled with joking banter, and she knew it. Link led her, winding down a steep hill, to part of the forest she had never been before. Somehow, the mood of the forest itself changed, as if despite the silence remaining, the peacefulness was gone. But it was not the conversation topic that was to blame. The area itself was somehow different, but Princess Zelda could not tell why. Then suddenly, she got her first clue. As Link pressed aside a wall of tall ferns, Zelda saw past the opening what appeared to be a massive doorway in the side of a hill, made of stone in the shape of a giant Gothic lion's head, his mouth grotesquely gaping open as the entrance. Made of a dark green stone that Zelda did not recognize, but knew was not naturally found in this part of Hyrule. The doorway was almost otherworldly in appearance. Finally, Zelda remembered from her studies what it was. "This is the doorway to the underworld, isn't it?" Zelda asked. Long ago, when our ancestors were engaged in a war with Ganon, these ancient underground labyrinths were used to hide fragments of the Triforce of wisdom from him. How or why they were built originally, no one really knows for sure. Zelda remembered the legends. She continued. If Ganon had managed to get a hold of both the Triforce of Power and Wisdom, he would have been unstoppable. Later, when Ganon was defeated by a hero wielding a magical sword and silver arrows, and Ganon's spirit was sealed forever in the Temple of Time, peace returned to Hyrule, and the monsters that used to fill these dungeons disappeared. Or so they say. You probably never took me here before because you were protecting me. As Link and Zelda grew up, their fear of monsters gradually faded. Now, they merely had a healthy respect for the danger that the forest presented. Despite the possibilities that monsters may still lurk in such a place, Link and Zelda knew it was unlikely that they would meet anything that the two of them could not handle. But why did you bring me here? Zelda asked. Link was not sure of that himself. His mind introspectively brainstormed on ways to answer that question. Perhaps he just did it to avoid talking about his feelings for Zelda. Of all the places that were a short walk from the part of forest they were in, this was the most awe-inspiring. And on top of that, it was the only one he had not shown Princess Zelda before. Zelda gazed into the distorted, gaping mouth of the stone-lined archway, down the sloping hallway into darkness. She smiled, a kind of ironic smile to herself. In a weird way, the demonic doorway reminded her of a married life without Link. A prospect looming just before her, inviting her into an unholy, unresolvable maze of despair, darkness, confusion, and ultimately death. She gritted her teeth and made a decision. Link, I am having a birthday celebration tomorrow. It is kind of a big deal. Part of it is open to the public, but part of it is a private party. You know, for royalty and certain guests. Zelda frowned as she imagined her father and this mystery suitor, ganging up on her like a pair of dodongos, preparing to charge. I know you and my father have never really gotten along so great when you see each other at all, but I want you to come. Here, take this. Reaching into the slit of her dress, she pulled out an embroidered card and handed it to Link. He held it momentarily above his head with both hands, looking at it. This is a royal invitation. If you show it to the castle guards, we can spend my whole birthday together. Also, take this letter. If you show it to a merchant in Castle Town, they will know that I am paying for you to wear something so you fit in at the party. Link suddenly felt extremely awkward. Not only had he never really spent time with Zelda's father, he had never gone anywhere in Hyrule that had dress code. Zelda sensed this and added, Link, I think my father wants me to get married. I think he might announce this at the party. If he does, I am going to make my own announcement. I will tell everyone that I do not want to get married, unless it is to you. And at once, Link had an emotion that was much more powerful than awkwardness. He was happy. Zelda's plan was just crazy enough to be something he could get on board with entirely. Link liked to think of himself as a wild, free-spirited forest boy, but he knew that it took a woman like Princess Zelda to truly make his life crazy. He smiled. Tomorrow was going to be an interesting day. The King of Hyrule woke the next morning, about the time he usually woke up, very early. He had beaten the sun in the race to get up so many times, the sun stopped trying to compete. He lit his red candle and washed his face, looking deeply into the mirror. His eyes looked tired. He washed his face more.
Anyway. Right. That was kind of fun. Kind of want to make it a short one because I don't know. I do not feel moved to continue at this time. But it was nice to be with you, if only briefly, for maybe a disaster episode. If I don't know. It just, as you go forward with stuff, sometimes it evolves and changes, and maybe if you settle on something that you're not super happy with, you gotta change some more. So, yeah, I think we can keep, I don't know, I think Zen Theatre can continue to change. But I kind of like just not worrying about it and getting in front of the camera and checking in with you people, because it's like, I feel if you guys are the focus, not me, then my heart's in the right place, no matter how much of a disaster the episode is. As we say in Zen Theatre Live, begin by simply listening, slow down, and see just how peaceful today can be. Thank you so much for everything. Yesterday was totally lovely, so hopefully we can muster a repeat performance universe. Catch you guys on the flip side.